Hey there, folks. Welcome to the Magic and the Music. Today we have a cloth face mask tutorial. You probably know we are big theme park nuts, and we are very excited about getting back to Disney World as soon as possible. And I think most of us in the Disney fan community know that that's probably going to happen only with cloth face masks or face coverings required. So we wanted to get out ahead of that and start to experiment with some face masks. My husband also has to wear a face mask to work every day. So he wears one for 8+ hours every single day. And we have experimented with many different styles, different fits, different methods of wearing the mask. And so we wanted to share with you some of our favorites, some of our tips, things that we think might help you along the way and maybe save you some time as you experiment with making your own. So here you go. Okay, here is the finished face mask.
Very nice. This is with the wider ribbon.
Yes. Very comfortable. You can see when I breathe. A good seal all the way around the sides. One of the reasons I particularly like this style is it comes down lower under your eyes, and that prevents you from feeling quite so kind of claustrophobic in the mask. It really does help with that.
It's really great. I also like that you can push it down here, and if you set your glasses right here below the wire, then you tend to get less fogging.
All right.
But it's definitely good. I feel like the 2 layers is plenty for filtering out things. If you want, you can always add a second layer on the interior, and I've done that as well.
Okay, here we have a sample of the face mask. This is my daughter modeling it, and you can see here that she has the tie around the neck or behind the neck. And really this is a very comfortable and versatile style. You will see that in the children's versions, I don't usually put the wire in the nose piece, and my daughter seems to be comfortable with the fit even without the wire. So that's going to be the child size of the mask, and she likes it. Here we have the face mask, just to give you kind of a breakdown. You can see that it is 2 layers, and it has a pocket, so it's open on the side so that you can actually put additional layers inside if you feel that you need it. But the idea is to keep it lightweight, so you want to wear it. It does have a wire nose piece made out of a pipe cleaner, and the most unique feature is that we have these pockets or channels that we sew on the sides, and that gives us the flexibility of being able to either put earpieces that are round like ponytail holders or elastic loops, or you can slide in ribbon or a cord or something else like that. So you have a lot of choices here, and this is a great mask because if somebody doesn't like it one way, you can easily change it without having to toss the whole mask. Here we can see the pattern for the mask, and there is a flap that we will fold over for part of it. These are the supplies: 12-inch pipe cleaner. We also have grosgrain ribbon, which is the type of ribbon that has those little ridges on it. It grips really well. I would not recommend using a satin ribbon for this. I think that it would be too slippery. So, but right now you take what you can get, right? We don't always have options. Another option is that you can use these kind of ponytail holders. They're really kind of like tights, actually. I think you could take a kid's pair of tights and probably cut them up too. And you can cut these narrower, and they are very comfortable loops for earpieces. Of course, you could use elastic. You could use ponytail holders. Again, here's an example of that tights type material, and I would probably cut that one in half and make the earpieces out of that. It really just depends on what the wearer is comfortable with. Sometimes people don't like a strap going across their hair, or maybe they wear glasses, and so they might have different tastes. So you just choose the one that works best for you, and you can modify it even after you've made the mask. Okay, so we are going to be cutting out our pieces for the mask. And step 1 is to take the pattern, and you're going to want to lay it out on your fabric, and this is with the fold flap out, so we are making the full size. Now, if you have a pattern to your fabric, as I do here, you're going to want to be careful that you orient it so that the pattern is facing up and just be kind of aware of how you're laying it out on the fabric. You can see that I have the fabric folded over on itself so that I'll have both sides of the mask by cutting it this one time. So here in this case, I've got my cute Mickey fabric, which I love, and I'm going to be laying it out so that the pattern orients correctly on the mask. So here we've pinned that pattern down, and then we're going to go ahead and carefully cut this out. There are some sizing options on the patterns, so I will give you a download in the notes for a medium, which we've found fits every single adult we've tried it on. And then I have a child size as well. If you needed something bigger than the adult, I would recommend just expanding the pattern, maybe 1/4 of an inch, most of the way around, but not too much around the nose area because it gets really, really big if you do that. Okay, so we have our fabric cut out, and you can see that we have, it's ready to go. And here is our lining. So now, very, very important thing. On this section, we are going to be folding that little piece on the pattern. Excuse me. We are going to be folding the piece on the pattern and cutting this out so it's a little bit smaller than the front piece. So now I'm cutting that out, and again, this fabric is folded, so we have 2 identical layers. And in this case, my fabric is just plain. There's no print, there's no right or wrong side to it, so I can just leave those together. It doesn't even matter which way that they are oriented. Okay, the next step for us is we are going to be sewing our pieces together, and I'm going to go ahead and pin the lining pieces together. And again, there isn't a right or wrong side to these, and we're going to be stitching along that curved line. Now for the front piece of the mask, because it has a pattern, I am going to have to flip that where the right sides or the pattern sides are facing to each other. So make sure that you have those oriented the correct direction. And then we'll go ahead and pin along that curved line. You could use clips if you wanted to. I don't have clips, which I wish I did. They look really great. But I'm working with what I have. So we're going to go ahead and sew along this line with a 1/4 inch hem allowance, seam allowance here. And here we are just kind of fast forwarding through the sewing process. You do not need to back stitch any of these right now because everything else is going to get folded over and stitched over. So you can see here we have both of our pieces, and they are stitched along the curved edge. Okay, next we're going to be taking out our iron. So have your iron heated for cotton, so one of its higher settings. And we're going to take this lining piece, and we're going to actually just fold this fabric back, and it's going to give us about 1/4 of an inch hem, and I'm going to press that with my iron. And that will make it really easy to just take that right over to the sewing machine and be able to make that hem. So I'll press both sides down. Very easy, actually. You don't need a lot of sewing skills to do this particular project. I am not a big sewer myself. I'm one of those people who just sews when there's something I need that I can't get. So we're going to stitch right along this edge, making sure that that raw edge is on the same side as the raw edge on the curved piece. Hey folks, if you find this tutorial to be helpful, please like and subscribe to our channel below and put some comments down here as well. It really helps our channel out a lot, and it helps us to be able to reach more viewers when you interact with what we are doing, and also subscribing gets you our latest content right away. Thanks a lot, folks. Okay, so we have our finished edge here. Notice we got raw edge and raw edge matching. And the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be joining these 2 pieces together so that we are starting to create the pocket for the mask. So we're going to take the right side of our front section of the mask, so our print, and we're going to face that against the right side of the lining. And this is probably the trickiest part of the whole thing, is where I'm taking these 2 little spots where the seams line up. I'm going to make them perfectly line up, and then I kind of lay the seams in either direction, or the little extra, And then I'm going to pin right on that seam so that it holds together. Now, if you've done a really good job of lining that up, you won't have any problem laying the rest of this down. And then I'll go ahead and pin the rest of this so that I can get a nice smooth line here. Okay, so we're going to be stitching along this edge here and joining these two pieces together. So I would move very slowly and carefully around that little bit that goes over the nose because it's curved and that's a little bit harder to sew. Okay, now we have the bottom piece that we're going to be attaching together. I'm going to do that exact same procedure where I line up those two seams, that little intersection, and then I take a pin and I go ahead and put the pin right through those seams so that I know that they're really, really well aligned. And then the rest of it should pretty much just lay down in place. And then we will be sewing along this line on the bottom. Okay. Now we have our pocket created. Now you're going to go ahead and turn it right side out very carefully. And it probably would have been a good idea to actually cut a little bit of the extra fabric right at that kind of point right on the nose. And I've done that on some of them, but I didn't do it on this time. So then I take my iron, and once I have it turned right side out, I'm going to go ahead and press that and flatten out that seam. Now you'll notice that you'll have like a little bit of that front pattern fabric is going to be kind of folded over, like it's waiting for its hem there. Go ahead and press that over because ultimately you will be hemming that when you're all done with the whole mask. And then we're going to carefully do that same procedure on the nose piece as well. That's not really a nose piece, but the bit that goes over your nose. And you're just going to want to carefully do that. Sometimes I've used, like, I had a plastic ruler that was not very sharp, and I kind of stuck it in there, and that helped me to get like a nice clean edge, especially around that curve, because the curve is a little bit harder to work with. Then we'll just do that on all the areas. That's really coming together now. Okay, the next step is to add in the wire nose piece. I take a 12-inch pipe cleaner and I take the ends and I just bend them over maybe a 1/4 of an inch or so we don't have a sharp edge. I found that sometimes having a sharp edge sticking out can poke through the fabric in the laundry or whatever the case may be. So bend those over, then you're going to bend the pipe cleaner in half, and then I go ahead and twist that together so that it's essentially one thicker wire piece. And then I'm going to find about the center point. Oops. I'm going to find the center point of that and just give it a little bend to follow the contour of the mask. And I actually am going to shape the whole thing kind of like the mask actually so that I can get it inside. So now I'm going to work this into the mask. And the nice thing is if you have that little bend right in the middle, you're going to be able to feel where it is. And so you can work that up into that kind of spot where the nose is. So again, I'm just pulling it right up to the edge where the seam is, where the fabric meets. And I'm going to find that little spot right there, and I'm going to grab a pin. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and grab a pin and just pin just this side of it so that the little pipe cleaner is kind of trapped in a little channel right there. And I'm going to just push the pipe cleaner all the way up to that little channel, and then I'm going to pin it in several locations so that it doesn't move around. We are ultimately going to be sewing a little channel here that is going to keep the pipe cleaner in place. In this tutorial, I'm not showing that I've sewn the ends of that channel, But if you wanted to do that to prevent it from shifting at all, right or left, you could actually put a few little stitches right there at the end of each one, but I don't show it in this particular tutorial. Okay, so now we're going to go to the sewing machine and sew right along this edge, just inside the pipe cleaner. So you'll have to kind of work your way around it. Now, for whatever reason, I didn't end up filming that particular one, so this is a different example of a different mask where I am sewing that piece. Take your time around the nose, this little bent part right here. Really take your time and really slow down as you go through there. So now you can see we have that channel with the pipe cleaner kind of embedded in it. Now we're going to do the same thing and sew along the bottom. And this is going to be really easy because there's not a pipe cleaner or anything inside of that. Again, you don't need to backstitch any of this at this point. So it's fast. And it's really looking like a mask now. Okay, look at that. Got our pocket. Now we are going to take these little flaps and flip them over. We're going to give them a 1/4 inch hem. So I'm going to start by pressing that with my iron. And I'll do the same thing on both sides. Then I'll run over to the machine and I'm going to just sew along that little hem on the end. Okay, moving to our final steps. We're going to create this little channel here at the sides of the mask. This is what really makes this mask more versatile, I think. And so I'm pressing, just taking the fabric, folding it just so it lines right up with the pocket, just so I'm not covering the pocket, and I'm going to press it. And now I'm going to decide how I want to attach the mask. So I could either do it with either with a ribbon, with a cord, a string, a cord that's made out of the fabric. I can use those little elastic bands. I could use a ponytail holder. You could use regular elastic. There are all kinds of options for you here. In this case, I'm going to demonstrate using the stretchy kind of elastic, the one that's kind of like tights. So if I were going to be threading something through it like ribbon, I don't even need to have the ribbon here now. I can just close that little channel and it's done. So here you can see that's that ponytail holder that's essentially like tights, and I'm going to cut that in half. And then I'll cut that piece in half again because we certainly don't want a lot of bulk behind the ears. It's not comfortable. It just has to be strong enough. So then I'll take one of these pieces and cut that in half one last time. And again, find the means of wearing the mask that is most comfortable for you. It's going to be different for different people. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and kind of put that into the little fold here, tuck it all the way down into that little edge, and then I'm going to go ahead and pin it. Now, if you had something that you were going to thread through or you were going to tie, you wouldn't need to have it in it. You only need to have it in right now if it's something that is a loop that you're not going to cut. Okay, so we'll take that to the sewing machine and we're going to be sewing and closing that up. So now this one you are going to either want to backstitch at the beginning and end, or maybe just do 2 full rows of stitches all the way across, because you do want this to be a nice strong seam. Okay, now here, this is another example. My son had the elastic pieces, but he stretched them out a lot. He's really young, so he was playing around with the mask. And that's clearly not going to work for us. So I'm actually going to remove those, and I'm going to show you how I would put in the ribbon, because he won't be able to mess up the ribbon. Another thing that's nice about when you do the ribbon or anything that ties is that if you have someone wearing the mask who's not super comfortable with masks, like my 4-year-old was not super comfortable with it at first, I found that it's really helpful to put it on really loosely at first and then kind of get the person acclimated to wearing the mask. And as they become more comfortable, they'll probably be more willing to tighten it up so that it has like a much better fit. And that really worked well with my 4-year-old. to just put it on really loose at first and then gradually over time just kind of get it to where it's really supposed to be. And now he wears his mask just like everybody else, so it can be done. So you can see here I'm taking this ribbon. I've cut about 50 inches. So I measured out 4 feet and then I add a little bit of extra. That I always like to have it extra long. Then I folded the end of it, placed a safety pin through it, and now I am threading the end of that safety pin through the fabric, and I push it through and then I kind of bunch it up on the safety pin and then pull it through. So I go up one side, over, and then down into the other side. This is a great tip also, if you ever have like a hoodie with like a drawstring that comes out, this is how you put it back inside, or sweatpants or anything with like a drawstring. You can thread it back through by putting a safety pin on it. And it's kind of nice if you make the pocket a little snug on the ribbon, because then it doesn't just pull straight out, because that would be kind of annoying if it kept coming out. So I'm just going to take my scissors here and I'm going to clean up that edge, because usually the leading edge where you push it through gets kind of gnarly and frayed. And I'm going to take a lighter and I'm going to just melt that edge so that it does not fray. Another option for you, and I probably should have done in this example here, was to tie the end pieces. That will also help to prevent them from slipping out through the sides of the mask. So there we are. We have another example here. I'm doing a Disney princess one for my daughter, which she loves this one. And so you can see I'm threading this through. And in this example, this is also kind of the thicker ribbon. You may prefer a thinner ribbon. This, I believe, is a 5/8 inch ribbon. 1/2 inch would work, 3/8 would work. Just remember, if it gets really, really thin, it will just pull straight through. I don't even mind the 5/8 because you pull it through and it kind of stays wherever you left it, because there's a little bit of tension on it. Again, I'm trimming, cleaning up the end, and I'm going to melt that little bit on the end so that it doesn't fray. Do not light your mask on fire. I don't even know if it could light on fire. I think it's probably polyester or something. The ribbon probably is. There we go. So now that won't fray. And there's our finished product. We can make all kinds of different styles, colors, looks with the mask. Well, that's it for the magic and the music. Thank you so much for sticking with us for this face mask tutorial. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Let us know if you have questions as well. We want to hear from you. Thanks a lot, folks. And remember, there's magic in the music. Bye.